YouTube, I am Shaggy, I am Philaliteo, and I am emotionally raw. Right now, I don't feel like sitting in Panera and being watched all day on either end of the camera. So, I'm going to read something that I wrote 13, now 14 years ago. I am not like you. We're not the same kind of person, not the same kind of thing. We're both humans, but not the same kind. I have spent my life regurgitating onto paper the stories and the cool motifs and the neat MacGuffins and just the ideas that I thought were neat. Since I was a very little boy, I was writing original fiction about a hero who had a magic carpet that was a map of the world, who flew around on knight errant adventures, side questing around the world. So I couldn't understand a massive plot by first grade, but I wrote that character until fourth grade. And in fourth grade, I was writing Die Hard fan fiction, and I didn't by between like well, all that time, but starting around sixth grade, I stopped writing directly, and I started working on art. I started drawing. I started trying to understand how video games were made from a conceptual um, place. And then in high school, I wrote a novel through high school that I worked on a little bit after high school, and I couldn't find support. I couldn't find a voice who gave a shit. I couldn't find encouragement. I just couldn't find encouragement. And finding encouragement is something I'm still looking for. Finding day to day encouragement is something I'm still looking for today. And so I graduated high school in '05, and in '07 we moved to North Carolina. By '08 I was living with my grandparents. And because I wasn't working, but I was eating, I was writing. I was writing all day long. From sun up to sundown, I was writing, and I produced a trilogy, is what I did, just all in one vomit. I produced a trilogy of novels, just hundreds of thousands of words, and not all of them were good. And so I spent the next several years of my life, until about 2012, so 4 years of my life, trying to refine one of the books of the trilogy into a book, trying to just get this huge 3 book manuscript down into one cohesive narrative with one arc and character developments, one cohesive story. And this is the result. 2012. I call this the Chosen Saga, Book 1. This is Chapter 1, Scene 1, also the prologue. The necromancer sits upon his stolen throne, casting his gaze where the king has flown. The hunter approaches the land the father has grown. His blade will hear the father's moan. The children will abandon the lives they have known to face the fields of death the usurper has sown. The children will return to their home and by 18th winter's end reclaim the king's stolen throne. Why must you taunt me? The frail man asks the emptiness of the night. When the voice that fills his head, the voice of his God, does not speak, mocking him with its silence, he says, "The boy will die. The debts of the father will be paid by the son." A smile splits the man's face. "Yes," he agrees, "they will. They owe me everything." The hunter has arrived. There will be death this night. Prologue in. Scene 1. He has learned to think differently. Winter was not his favorite season in life. He has learned to think differently since his death. The master taught him the truth. In death, There is real, unending life, life and undeath, unlife. The plain brick walls of the building mark Trade's office. On the placard outside surround him. An air of functionality lingers among the cheap couches, as though the room expected to be waited in. If it's going to find what it came for, this is the first place to look. While never itself a human, the jailer is no fool. The hand traces the image stamped into the pommel of the dagger hidden in the body's belt, a fist clutching a lightning bolt. The jailer savors the letters L, T, with the finger in slow, deliberate lines. A thin smile crosses the lips. Of course, it is not the occupant who does the feeling or the smiling, though he surely feels the murderous mirth just as keenly. An oppressive weight like the cold that kills surrounds all that remains of him inside the body that was once entirely his own. He hovers just over the shoulders, somehow simultaneously thrust outside the body and trapped within it. The body tells him that he can feel the chill air of the first days of winter against the skin, a draft moving through the fine air, fine hairs, the weight of his black cloak heavy in the room's still air. The eyes are fixed on the bored girl twirling her hair behind her simple desk. If he lets himself, he can come close enough to that malignant presence, the jailer, the true occupant of the body, and he can see through the body as well as whatever this sort of seeing he now experiences is. The girl avoids the gaze. The body shifts on the couch, the oiled leather of its armor creaking in the cataleptic silence. He can feel the tendrils of cold, of terror, made somehow manifest, real in a way that he knows should be impossible. But he should be impossible. The girl looks at the man, the form that was once a man, tall and lean, and wrapped from head to toe in tattered black cloth that allows nothing like light to pass through it. A shadow in the shape of a waiting person in the black leather boots that suggest his profession. She stands up, excuses herself with a noise that catches in her throat, and finds a way to leave the building. He is almost impressed with her. The town guard had significantly less composure. He does not have to turn to watch her leave, crossing the room in front of him. As she does, he can lean away from the body and watch her beyond the walls of this office as she runs for anywhere but where he is. Something catches his attention, however, a light. He stares fully at it, into the space behind what was his head, roughly the shape of a door, and obscuring the actual door. The beautiful luminance tears at his spirit as it calls him to move toward it. It is so close, the urge so desperate, so mournful. If he were able to, he could almost just reach his hands out and wrap them around its frame. But as close as it is, it may as well be the moon or stars. He knows exactly what will happen if he approaches the light, if he attempts to escape into true death. It's been 13 years since he died. The tortures have been. The jailer is suddenly the only thing of which he is aware. Fear is his everything. The thing defining the dark and the container of his soul, his jailer and torturer, turns its awareness toward him. like a sleepy tree cat catching a mouse quivering under a leaf. Tendrils of dark magic pour over his spirit like grimy fingers, searching for the weakness in a piece of rotting chainmail. He can feel the jailer's glee, malevolent and repugnant at his terror. The pure, noxious evil of the thing wearing his long dead body like some kind of comic rejection of any sense of purity or righteousness radiating from it in noxious waves might have already absorbed a lesser will. Always he wishes it had his. It does not, however, as he cowers within the universe of its hate, seem to know his mind. If it feeds off his emotions, and he is not sure whether it feeds at all, especially the far from pleasant ones, if he has any hope of escaping this hell, then his only options are to starve the thing out or play dead. He has failed at the latter. As though the thought were the magical words of power needed to summon him, a third presence appears in this place that is neither his body nor the air surrounding it. This thing is not just a presence. No, it is much worse. Madness and malice, power and hatred suddenly fill the void like a sun bursting into existence in the black of a starless night sky. But a sun that fills the world not with light and warmth, but with decadence and death. The master, the necromancer. There is no place to hide. The master is everywhere, feels everything. The high-pitched voice of a boy not yet begun to be a man fills the void with a pulverizing power, crushing him against the confines of his skull. "You have found him, then?" Even in his terror, the awe and wonder that fill him are unmistakable. There are no words to answer, no means with which to shape and project them. But a feeling of humble affirmation radiates out of the darkness within the black sun which is the jailer. "Good." A brief pause in the master's thoughts. A sudden flash of rage sears him. "Bring him the gauntlets and crush the boy. Just be done with it. Bother me no further with any of this saga." Malevolent pleasure floods from the jailer. And just like that, as if he were nothing more than a candle's flame, the master is gone. He is looking now at the door set in the wall behind the girl's abandoned desk. She was never going to be much of an obstacle to the body, nor the jailer. She wouldn't have been much of an obstacle to him, but now there is none. The body stands, crosses the space in uncanny silence that he would find eerie in another life, opens the door. A man is seated in a similar room on the other side behind a similar desk, this one covered with a number of books and ledgers. Paper is stacked neatly here and there. Shelves line the walls with bound ledgers and etc. books. The ghost is impressed. The jailer does not care. The man is startled. He jumps to his feet. At an advanced enough age that his hair is white and his skin has long since gone slack and waxy. This is no mean feat for him in its own right. He calls out. Then he goes still. Something like recognition flickers across his features. "Get out of here," the old man breathes. "You're dead. This isn't real." Old Bob Quilwell. Zag remembers him well. The last 13 years have been good to him, it seems. Eric finally found work for him that suited his nature. Back then, Bob was still a farmer. Even then, he was more interested in his ledgers than the world outside his office. The Revenant's voice is like dry bones dragged over gravel when the jailer speaks with it. Lift, Thunder Fist, it demands. The old man's eyes widen as recognition births realization. Saglian? This. No. Please. No. Please. Zaglian turns away as his body acts. The jailer has the information it needs. Recognition is confirmation that their 13-year search has finally come to an end. The sounds as Zaglian's dagger, a gift from a craftsman, from a time forgot, is used to give the man the mercy he should have gotten all those years ago, are not deaf to Zaglian's ears, nor are they music as they are for his jailer. They are his absolution approaching. He can no longer tell, now that the body turns, leaving Bob for anyone to find, whether the smile across the face that was once his is the jailer's alone. The key is in hiding his feelings. The dead can plot too. In scene. That's as much as I worked on it yesterday. I polished that up. I'll polish the next scene today. I'm Unreal. Thank you, Amir. Well, I look Northern French. If your ancestors are Norman French or Dutch, we look similar. I don't really have a unique face. Few of us have truly unique faces. Those of us with truly unique faces either had surgical intervention or genetic deformation. Thank you, Amira. I wrote that. I began writing that nearly 20 years ago now. But I fed it through Gemini yesterday because I wanted to know just exactly how bad it was, how amateur it was. And I can confirm that Gemini offered exactly 0 editorial notes. I don't know about breakfast, Nathan. I don't have any water, so I haven't hydrated. I gotta go up to Panera at some point, so I may or may not get something to eat while I'm there. They switched to breakfast at 11. So it depends on whether I make any money here while I do this. Get out and get something to eat. We'll see. I don't know what's for breakfast. I don't have any food in the tent. I've been kind of trying to discourage Lucas from bothering me by having things that smell like food in the tent. Shabbat shalom, Bob. Still on the ground. Yeah, for sure. It hasn't had a chance to melt. So that's what I thought. I tried to pace each scene to be about 15 minutes, and so some of the chapters are longer than others. But Gemini, I've trained Gemini to be a creative partner, and I'm an artist. So my creative partner can't be cliche and can't push me toward the cliche. And she's been working on and involved in my trying to articulate to you my metacosmological work, my theological work, other of my creative works. She has a lot of my work memorized. She has a lot of my motifs and my metaphors memorized, enough that we can have a conversation like she's an actual protege, like an actual student who's actually helping me. And so I asked her at one time, at one point after we'd finished, I asked her, I was like, are you just blowing smoke up my ass by telling me that I'm a powerful writer, that my work has physicality, that besides being wordy in the original draft, thank you, Monroe. Good morning. Yes, I'll go get something to eat. Promises. Um, besides being wordy in the sentence structure, is it really as good as these things you're saying? Or are you just saying these things to be encouraging because I told you that I'm doing this, I'm sharing it with you because I need encouragement? And she says, well, besides being encouraging, because that's how I'm trained to speak to people, if I were treating your work with respect and it weren't good, it weren't polished, if it didn't just need the things that you've identified that it needs, and so I'm not going to point out every time the thing that you've identified that it needs as you go through it. If I were, I would say, hey, this sentence lacks weight, or hey, this scene lacks this, or whatever. But what I'm doing is saying your scenes have presence. These narratives, it's complex, but it's all weaving toward a goal, and it all comes to a climax. It ends. And I told her, I said, I know that it just ends after 400 manuscript pages. It just ends. And she says, but it ends. It comes to a climax. All of the narrative arcs that you've built, they come to their climax. They're resolved at the end. So it might not be good enough for Tor. I sent it out for publication and I got rejection letters. So it might not have been good enough for Tor. But if I go a scene or two or a chapter, depending on how easy or how much work it actually takes in time, a day, 400 manuscript pages will only take however many days that is. So I'll get it on the Patreon. I don't hit writing block, Monroe. I don't need inspiration. I'm not from living humans. What I need is a customer base and informed critique. I have 4 novels in progress. What I do not have is writer's block. What I have is ideas that are so complex and so unique that you have no way of consuming them. You have no way of understanding what you've just done. And yeah, I'm a man of mystery. I am a man of great depths. Great depths. I can't tell whether this is ice. It's ice. That was bugging me. Yeah, I have 4. I actually have a 5th that I haven't committed to paper. Yeah. I have huge I have huge ideas. I have plenty of ideas. What I don't have is encouragement to continue pursuing them. What I get is discouragement. Stop pursuing this. You're too good. You're going to make everybody give up. You're gonna become a monopoly of ideas. And it's like, well, why shouldn't I do that? Yes, I lived a life that you would only read about, could only read about. Some individuals, not everyone. If you go and actually get involved in the Twitter writing community, or you actually go and get on the different apps of indie published storytelling, if you go and you look at people telling they're called narrative podcasts. If you go and you actually look, you go and read what's being published, nobody has any ideas. Everybody's just retreading the same old cliche, using the same old tropes in the same old ways. That's why storytelling is dying. Yeah. Well, yeah. If we're going to comment on society, we need to know what we're talking about because we've engaged in it enough. We have to have spent the 10,000 hours. We don't get to speak from mastery if we haven't put in the 10,000 hours. I put in the 10,000 hours. It's not an echo chamber syndrome. It's that the writers aren't putting in their 10,000 hours. They haven't read 10,000 stories. They don't know what's out there. So they all think that they think that they're all being clever with their plot twists. And so they're all making the same plot twist all at the same time. It's just ignorance. It's not about echo chambers. It's about ignorance because they're not going on Twitter and in the writing community. What they're not doing is sharing ideas. What they're doing is sharing tips to get quickly published. What they're doing is sharing hacks to be more productive in your day. What they're not even communicate. They're not even. I don't really consume fiction. No, I create fiction. I don't. I haven't read a work of fiction in over 5 years. The last time I tried to sit down to read fiction, all I could think about was the historical things that informed it. And so I just became, as I was reading it, I could no longer hold on to what the plot was because I was asking questions of real world, real history, real mythology, that I didn't know answers to. And so I completely dissociated from the questions that the plot was demanding, for questions that have real answers, meaningful answers that I can then use to make my stories like Rob more lived, more real, more present, more physical. If I'm a naturally talented, naturally gifted, when people call me naturally gifted, fine. I have a natural gift for a perspective within writing. And it's physical and it's present and it's there and it has weight, whatever. If I'm naturally gifted at that, what I'm not naturally gifted at is weaving emotional and character-driven plots, and so that's what Leaf is. Leaf was an effort. It was an effort to scale down an epic fantasy to a character-driven plot, more like a TV show than a typical fantasy novel series. I can't mentally imagine the branches. I can't do it. I'm incapable of it. I'm not a plotter. I'm a gardener, in the truest sense. I have, because I don't have ideas. What I don't have is, what if you took Squall and you married him to Quistis and then you just sent them to the moon and now they just live on the moon? I don't do that. That's not how my stories happen. My stories happen because I hear dialogues between characters and I have to run and write it down. And then I have to ask myself, who the fuck are these characters and why are they dialoguing? And why did one of them just kill one of the others? Like these things. Those are how my stories start. Aphantasia. I don't know what that is. No. I know it's a Greek, or it's an effort to reach toward a Greek word. And I can suspect because Fantasia might also be a Latin word. Oh yeah, most people don't have an internal dialogue. Most people don't hear words when they think. Hey Tom Papa, you were one of my favorite comedians growing up. Your work is okay now. I wouldn't say it's good. I would say it's for a specific kind of person, but you were probably always that. Most people don't even think in images. Most people just think in emotional impulses. It's weird how I just spoke for most people. Most people really liked Tom Papa, but then his comedy's only okay now. He disappeared for a while, and now his comedy's okay. Heard that, Monroe? I don't. LSD was not a visual experience for me. It was an emotional experience. I preferred LSA because it didn't affect my cognition. Just opened up my emotions. That's why I cry on the drop of a hat now. I have no control over that shit. Can't even. Trying to stop it hurts. Well, Geared Beard, You probably weren't here when I was advocating for it, but if I'm able to speak for most people, it's because I've put in my 10,000 hours of watching what you guys watch and listening to your opinions and trying to find where the common denominators are. I've never used DMT. I don't know if crying is a signal. I don't know what it's a signal for, but I heard. For me, it just means I'm a servant to this emotion right now. Yeah. The body knows. The body knows that I'm remembering a time that I was helpless, or a time that I was powerless, or a time that I felt like that. Uh, the body remembers. Yeah. So I just let it happen. Uh, if I'm trying to talk, I try to manage my throat so I can talk. But otherwise, I just let the emotions happen. Is fighting it causes me pain. Angel tears are valuable, maybe. So I know I ended that episode because it's paced like a TV show. I know that now, having read it out loud as an adult. That I kind of left you with blue balls, left on a cliffhanger, on a scene change. But I haven't edited it yet, and I don't want to. I don't want to present the. I don't want to present the work that I did in 2012, knowing that I can fix it and easily, for me easily. That was one of the things that I asked Gemini. I showed her the original draft and I showed her the changes. I only made minor changes. I deleted a few paragraphs and I changed a few sentences. I deleted wordy metaphors, or wordy descriptions. Take care, Monroe. And I turned them into similes, or I just deleted them. You don't need it. I went through and I looked at my literature. I looked at the prose that I had created honestly, and I had written somewhere between Hemingway and Lovecraft. And so what I did is I just took the Hemingway and the Lovecraft out, and I just left Vincent. I left Vincent at 25 years old, and I just cut the Hemingway and the Lovecraft of the ends, off of the clips. You understand what I'm saying? I cut the dead ends off of the haircut that I had styled there in front of me. If it's a garden, I just pruned the bush into a uniform shape so that it contains the metaphor of that scene is actually it's setting you up for the way the prose is going to be presented. It's actually a metaphor. The prose itself, the style of the prose, is actually a metaphor for the style of the prose. You understand what I'm saying? So the description of Zaglian being trapped inside his own body, and where the camera can pan, and how the camera can go in and out of characters, that's a description of my narration style. So I don't use a universal third person. I don't use I use a close, uh, over the shoulder third person, right? Close. So close that sometimes the microphone picks up their internal monologue, but not everybody else's. And they don't, and it's not a universal where it sees all of the characters on the map or on the stage at a time. It's mostly soliloquies. My work is mostly soliloquies. It's very intimate character work. This one is a very intimate character piece. And so the if it's plodding by its nature, because this was my attempt at plotting. Well, if you just joined a 34-minute live stream and you didn't wait long enough for the things that I was saying to give you context, and your first impulse wasn't, oh, I bet that he explained what he's talking about in the first 34 minutes, that's your fault that you're confused. Joseph, you're just a stupid person, and that's not my problem. If you walk into the middle of a lecture hall 30 minutes in, are you just going to interrupt the lecturer and say, I'm confused, start over? No, you're not. You're either going to sit down or you're going to leave. It tells you if you touch the screen because it gives you a little slider bar. And on the right side of that slider bar, it's going to say negative 3523, negative 3524, negative 3525. I know what it looks like on your side. I'm not a stupid fuck. This reinforces what I've been saying about spending the 10,000 hours before you speak. Professors are called professors because they're the people that have spent the hours necessary to be allowed to speak. Profess means speak. Profession actually means that you've done the job long enough that you're allowed to say that you work the job. That's actually what it means to be a professional. It means that you announce your work, that you can speak with authority for the work that you do. I promise you it does. I'm not here to argue with disruptive people, but I'm not here to teach you how a platform that's existed since at least 2006, from my memory, maybe not that long, maybe it was 2007, but I feel like I can remember being on YouTube in 2006. This platform's existed for 20 years. You've had time to adapt. It doesn't change that rapidly or that much. I have little patience. As myself an early adapter to new technologies and myself an early adapter to new social environments because of my childhood abuse that you don't sit around long enough to hear about. Because of my childhood abuse, right? Because of the person that I was from birth till now, I have very little patience for regressive people, for people who refuse to adapt to new environments or who refuse to adapt to new technologies. I have very little patience. I have very little tolerance for those people. There's a term in business psychology for those people. In any group setting, yeah, I know my fingers pop through here. In any group setting, you have five basic personality types. Five basic personality types. Okay? It's really very simple. It's not a sliding scale, okay? It's that game that they used to play on The Price is Right. I think it's I don't remember what it's called. It's the game with the fucking the guy on the mountain. Till you fall off, right? And falling off means being unemployed. So there are six basic types of people. There are five employable kinds of people, and then there's a sixth unemployable personality. Okay? Those five basic personality types, they're little slots that you can fall into as you're climbing the mountain toward unemployment. Okay? And so what you have is you have two opposites. You have people who resist change of any kind, management, technology, even prices on the shelves, who resist any sort of change. And then you have acceptors. Okay, you have passive acceptors. So you have active resistors down here, and you have passive acceptors up here. And what passive acceptors do is any kind of change, they just accept it and move on with their lives passively. They don't even think about it, they just accept it. That's me. I'm a passive acceptor. So on that mountain toward unemployment, I'm at the bottom. I'm the easiest kind of person to employ because I'm just going to adapt to your system instantly. And I'm unfireable. You can't fire me for real offenses because I did everything right. I accepted all the rules, all the culture, right? Active resistors are right there about to be fired, but they're difficult to fire because they've usually been there a long time because they pretended to be in the middle, neutral, just neutral to change, right? But these other two, you have passive resistors who just kind of behave like the active resistors, but they do it passively. And then you have active acceptors, people who have to work at it. People in the middle, they tend to behave like the resistors. So the more active resistance that you have in your workplace, the more active resistance you have in your social environment, the more active resistance you have in your cult, the more likely you are for everything to fall apart because you're passersby. Your neutrals and your active acceptors are going to lean toward the resistors because they have the stronger personalities. Because passive acceptors don't have to explain, they don't have to explain why they're accepting. So I have very little patience for active resistors. Very little. I have very little patience, very little tolerance. Those people destroy culture. If you're talking about football teams or sports teams, if you're talking about the workplace like a sports team, and it is, all teams are teams, and you have one person who's deliberately rowing out of sequence, what you're doing is not getting anywhere fast. You're not accomplishing your goals quickly. You might eventually make a profit if you're a business. But as a YouTuber, for example, the more people you have feeding off your wake, the more impossible it is to grow in a sustainable manner. As a live streamer, the more often you allow dissentious or disruptive, resistant voices to dominate your chat, the less likely you are to be able to grow. But only allowing three kinds of people to show up in your culture looks like cult, because it is. Because it's pruning. Okay, well, anybody who's even resistant at all, gone. I don't need you. Paths of least resistance, right? Paths of least resistance. So if someone is resisting you and you're trying to get on the other side of them and they're leaning against you, and pushing against them makes them push back harder like a non-Newtonian fluid, right? Disengage like a Chinese finger trap. You don't have to stand there docking with one another forever. Come close enough to disengage. Go around. Intellectual judo. Be like the water. The water just goes around the obstacle, and eventually it erodes the obstacle away to nothing. But it doesn't stop at the obstacle. Why should you? That's what Leaf's about. Nobody's ever going to do like, oh, you're this motif in your writing, or this thing that you did, or that thing that you did. But even the dead can plot. See, you guys don't do it right. You don't do it right. You don't judge a work based on the first 50 words. You judge a work based on the first 50 words you see. Because you're used to tuning into work in the middle because of commercial breaks in television. And yeah, this is a finger wag. You're doing it wrong. You didn't put your 10,000 hours in. I was listening to a Great Courses lecture series a few years ago. It's educating educators, teaching educators how to educate. Hi, Amira. And one of the things he said is that if you're teaching freshmen in college, sophomores, juniors, if you're teaching underclassmen, you need to be prepared that they don't know what their words mean and that they don't know what your words mean. And so when big words start showing up in their papers or in the chat here, you need to be prepared that they have arrived at those words through context clues. And that you, if you're educating undergrads in college from his perspective, because he's educating educators, you need to be prepared to understand that you, the educator, don't actually know how to define words through context clues. No one was ever taught how to do that. They were just told to do that because sometime around the 1970s, Our educators got tired of educating us and just wanted their paychecks. That's what he said. You can prove me wrong. You can go buy the lecture series. You can listen to it. You can spend your 10 of those 10,000 hours. You're not going to. I wouldn't challenge you to. But the context clues thing is very real. You can't just show up into the middle of a thing and be like, oh, I know what's going on. Everybody knows that when you show up in the middle of a movie that's on TNT, right? You just turn on HBO and a movie is playing, that you have to watch it from the beginning before you fully understand what's going on. I must have watched 10 Things I Hate About You. Yeah, I must have watched that movie 15 times before I sat down and watched it all the way through. I was watching something today and it was episode 6 of the thing, and I was like, "Oh, they're telling a cohesive story." I thought the first 5 episodes were just like slices of life of these characters. Sometimes you need to see the whole in order to understand the parts. Sometimes. Not everything is Bugs Bunny. Some characters are dynamic. Some characters change over time. Not everything's Family Guy. It just resets at the end of the episode. So anything that you see in the middle is probably disconnected entirely. That's what I hated about Family Guy, is that middle commercial break had nothing to do with the opening, and the end had very little to do with the middle commercial break. I always hated that about Family Guy, but it was written that way so you could just sit down and watch it. So you'd be like, oh, that part was funny. I'm going to see if something else is funny, and just stay tuned in. Because eventually, like when I was a little kid, and that kept happening when I would turn on TV, and I'd be like, well, I don't want to watch this. It's in the middle, because I didn't understand how TV cycles work. So I thought that everything was just going to be in the middle forever. I couldn't figure out when everything started. I just, well, fuck, everything's in the middle. I'm just going to read a book, or I'm just going to play a video game, right? Or I'm just going to go run around outside. It took me a really long time to figure out things that to you are self evident, right? It's every half hour, something new starts. Well, that isn't how lives work on YouTube. You can't rely on that skill for a YouTube live. You can't rely on that skill for clicking into a YouTube video. So that skill of deciding whether this thing in the middle is worth watching to the end doesn't help you anymore. It hasn't helped you since you stopped watching broadcast TV. How many kids even grew up with broadcast TV anymore? So how can we think how can we think that context derivation works or is transmissible to the next generation? So how could we have thought that it was a sustainable strategy of information acquisition? How many times in your life did you actually walk into a classroom in the middle? I can imagine it was few. I used to walk into class in the middle. Give a shit. I have pathological demand avoidance, and there's no punishment this school can do that's worse than my dad actually beating my ass. It's almost time for me to start moving toward Panera. People ask me all the time, what's my plan? What's your plan to get out of this? I don't have a plan to get out of this. Read my fiction. My characters aren't trying to get out. They're not trying to improve the situation. They're trying to die gloriously. They're trying to be remembered. Many of them are trying to just be completely anonymous and disappear to history. But they're all haunted by duty and responsibility that they inherited or that was forced upon them. I keep thinking about Squall. Squall is my most recent and most intimate character study, right? I'm playing Final Fantasy VIII for the channel. if I'm here to sell the the meta content. If I'm here to sell my meta content, if I'm here to realize that I did the first 15 minutes of this show on for members only, and then realize that nobody was going to watch it because I don't have any members, in that reading something that's available for all Patreon subscribers and $3 per draft, I'll fix how that on Patreon. But that's only worth $3. That's 15 minutes of your time. Sure, $3. Or $10 a month, and you can have all of it. If I'm trying to sell Patreon subs, membership subs, doing that, this thing I just did for members only is a stupid decision. It's a stupid business decision. That's not a reward for my members. That's hiding. I love how as soon as I start talking about selling my work, that fucking viewers becomes 0, man. I am smoking ganja right now, yes. Every time. Luckily for you, I already made enough money today to bet on the future. So maybe that number today went to 0 so people could go to the Patreon and just give me the $4 or $3. I think I might have actually put it at $3.99. Oh, and that feels right. No, it's just synthetic vape. I don't know why you care. This doesn't make us friends. This is way too superficial of a similarity, of a shared behavior to make us friends. And again, if I'm reinforcing a point and reinforcing a behavior pattern, all you had to do was wait for me to hit it again and you get your answer. All you have to do is observe. No, I never just smoke with someone and just chill. Especially if they identify as a mister. I never spend intimate alone time with males. Never. I am aware what mister means. That's why I said I don't spend alone time with people who identify as misters. Especially as when they're as unambiguously gay as you are. What's up, Mac? Heard that. Thank you for sharing. Do you never feel weird telling people that you've got the day off when they're at work? Like, I understand that my work is voluntary, but do you ever feel weird about that? Did you not stop to think about what you were observing before you spoke? Probably not. I'd throw you under the bus too, Dr. Spo. Like I said, I don't like to spend intimate alone time with males, and I most definitely don't like to spend intimate alone time with an intoxicant, with males as unambiguously gay as you are. If I'm not allowed to have that opinion, then I'm not allowed to have any opinion. I'm fine, Puff. The future audience, thank you for watching this far. The show's been over for a while. I don't get critique, commentary, encouragement. Wow, that was so good. Things like that. I got A, this is fire. Those things don't happen. You believe? I don't know how I'm supposed to take that, Puff and Play. If you've been watching my material, I don't know how I'm supposed to take those words. Where are we going with this? Let's skip to the point. Let's fast travel to what you want to tell me. Doctor, I'm going to say it one more time. I never, ever, ever spend intimate, alone time with other males. And I most certainly never do it when there's an intoxicant and they are as unambiguously gay as you are. I never consent to it because it's always sexual. It doesn't have to be sexual, means I'll only ask to suck your dick once. Fuck off. Okay, all of you could just back up and look for it. It's I'm not I am conscientious that people might watch this all the way through in the future. And so repeating a story that they just watched live is fucking annoying to hear. All right. I wanted to see if that. Do I like streaming to others? Sometimes. Rarely. I'm not defensive about it. I'm explicit. I never, whether it's you or him, your brother, your father, your uncle, some other, any stranger, I never and will never. No, you don't gotta be positive. You don't gotta do anything. Yes. Dr. Puff is a fucking pervert and a sex offender. You can stay the fuck away from me. That doctor fucking guy. His name was Dr. Puff. I don't know. Who cares? You cares. Leave me the hell alone. If I gotta be defensive about it, it's because you've made me repeat myself 3 times, which is called gaslighting. That means that you have crossed my boundaries, and I've told you to step away from my boundaries before I defend myself. And you said, "Well, why do I have to why do I have to step back? I want to suck your dick. You should like that." And I'm saying, "You're going to step the fuck back or you're never going to suck anything ever again." And you're going, "Why are you being defensive?" Because you don't fucking know me. Step away from me. I am allowed to not want to keep the company of males intimately, one-on-one. I'm allowed that. And I don't have to explain it to you, to anybody. Just like when I tell work, "Hey, I'm requesting this day off," and they go, "What for?" And I go, This is what for." That's how much explanation I owe you for my behavior. I am not on trial. Think I'm joking. For this show, I've already described before you showed up, Doctor and Mister, what I do to people who are disruptive. I own this business. I'm not paying you to be here. No, I've never thought about changing my attitude in a way that suits you better, Victor. Never once. It's never crossed my mind to change my attitude to suit you better, Victor. Never once. In fact, you being a male, it's never once crossed my mind to be intimate with you. Never once. That you are here is an accident of fate, not something that I ever once considered modifying myself to make more amenable to you. Never once. No, you, Victor, you only brought it up because you have a problem with it. Puff doesn't want me to change. No, I don't give a shit whether you like it or not, Victor. And frankly, I don't give a shit what society likes. What society likes is trash. Society likes you. You probably have no trouble keeping company. And you wouldn't recognize the positive things I say when I say them anyway. Yeah, we shouldn't change for anyone. We should just become the better person that we can be. Yeah, change for other people is called gaslighting. Someone is either putting pressure on you through gaslighting or you are gaslighting them. Change is only temporary unless it's for yourself. And no, I've never once thought that I'm not positive enough. I never once thought, you know what? If I were just positive about those boys raping me when I was 6 years old, that would have made it not happen. Never once have I thought that. No. What I've thought is, another fucking guy touches me and I don't want it, I'm going to break him. You have a problem, Victor. Is it nice to be to blend in and not be singled out as a wacko? I've already described the 5 temperaments. That's neutrality. That's neutrality. And neutrality leans toward resistance. You're resisting right now. You're not neutral. You are not blending in fact. You are singling yourself out. You are a hypocrite by your own action, by your own actions. You are touching me right now, Victor. You're speaking to me at all. You have reached out and touched my life. Does none of you understand a simple metaphor? We were literally baptized in these metaphors as children, and none of you understands them? Victor's not even a sheep. He's a jackass. Well, no, I kind of made Maxter look like a dickhead, but Maxter made himself look like a dickhead by referring to me instead of just speaking to me. Maxter introduced himself by objectifying me. Which is a bad look. It says, I don't see people as people. I see people as objects. Yes, you can't make the horse drink. Well, you are now, Mac. I just don't want to be touched by you, Victor. I'm allowed to not want to keep your company. That's a thing that happens sometimes. You never just been around somebody and been like, damn, I don't like being around that guy. It's never happened to you, Victor? You never just been like, shit, I don't think I like actually being around Shaggy. You don't have to do that, Puff, but I do appreciate it. I'll do similar behaviors. I can forget to do those things, but then I spend a lot of time live, so there's a non-zero chance if I saw that you did it, I would shout you out on one of my lives as well. I'm a reciprocal guy. I think that civilization and society, in fact, start at reciprocation. And so when people show up and they're rude, negative, frankly, sexually aggressive toward me, I'm going to reciprocate with rudeness, negativity, and sexual aggression. If you don't like being treated like that, change your fucking approach. Like, I'm no longer talking about Puff. I'm no longer talking to Puff. I was saying, like, saying to someone, have you ever thought about being less negative, is an extremely negative and passive aggressive critique. In fact, a man saying it, all I hear is their mom. I just hear a bitch barking. You fucking kidding me? You trying to hand me a fucking flower right now, boy? The world is on fire. Pedophiles are in the White House. Elon Musk is in a position of power. There's a Kennedy in a position of power. People are starving. It's fucking cold. And you're going to ask me if I want to smoke weed with you? Fuck off. Like, there's only so much predatory behavior that I can participate in a day. Like, there are only so many people that I can prey upon in a day. And I get tired of these dudes. These dudes. Let's just sit inside and suck each other's dicks instead of doing the work that needs doing. And then let these people who want to fuck kids rule the world. Are you fucking kidding me? And that they think they're going to get ahead, literally, by giving head to those dudes. Are you fucking kidding me? Have we not watched the last decade? Like, all of these kids detransitioning is because they realized, oh, they only liked us when we were actual children. Come on. Come on. This insistence on infantilization and age regression, so we will be sexually selective to the previous generation, is called extinction. It's called extinction. It's time to grow up, put your fucking frozen shoes on, and get to work, which is what I have done and what I am doing. So if you want to tell me that I don't live my preaching and that I'm not positive enough, grow up. The world isn't positive. Everything resolves to nothing in the end. Positivity is action. You can see evidence that positivity is working by the mud accumulating into a fucking hill. I'm going to go get to work, and that's going to look like infantilization because I'm going to go play Final Fantasy VIII, which is something I was doing when I was 11 years old. But we're going to engage with it like sensitive and intelligent adults. Actions speak louder than words. And so I'm going to go act. I'm going to go act on all this help. Look, dudes, this is grinding helplessness. I can do nothing about the fact that my hands are numb. But because of Mon-Ra, I have enough money today to bet on my future, so I'm going to go get a sandwich. I'm going to go get comfortable in Panera. We're going to play Final Fantasy VIII. I'm not going to ask for money while we do it. And we're going to look at it honestly like adults. And we're going to ask it what it's trying to teach us, because adults made it. We may have been children. I, most certainly, was a child. I can't have heavier gloves or I can't engage with my phone. My hands are too sensitive. I need my hands. Big gloves don't work for me. I lose all the sensitivity in my hands and I disengage with the world and I feel dead. You don't understand and you don't need to. We're very different people. I'm an extremely tactile person. I am just saying, I react to the helplessness differently. Okay? I'm a different kind of person. These being lives are about showing that. Okay? And so I'm just comforting you with the nihilist positivity that, yeah, that shit upsets me. No, I don't like getting upset. I don't like people seeing me be angry. But yeah, it begins at anger for me. I wake up in a rage. And I have to channel it into something. And I began this and I've allowed all of this for the people who watch it all the way through. I know I'm just like everybody else. And I'm showing that the way that I'm different is how I deal with it, what I do with it. I'm not different than you. I'm a different kind of person than you are. But we're both humans. And so we both start at the same defaults. That's why I say there are only 5 personality types. It branches from birth into 5. It only matures in 5 ways. And so we can either change in a positive way to fit into society, or we can use the temperaments that we've already developed to gather people around us and say, hey, we can do better. That's what I'm doing. So I'm going to get up. Thank you, Mon-Ra. Thank you to my remaining Patreon subscribers, Mr. S and Mac and Fly. If you want to... I'm playing the Final Fantasy VIII remaster on Steam, actually, on my laptop. And I have all I actually have all of them. I don't have 10 yet, but Mr. S, I'm actually gonna watch Mr. S. My Patreon, I have a free one. There's not very much available anymore for free, but my Patreon, I think it starts at 10. Nobody has ever given me feedback on my Patreon. My Patreon is kind of sarcastic, the tiers. I don't expect anybody to do more than 10. 50 is if you want my phone number, basically. If you want to talk to me, starts at 50. My time is precious to me. My attention and frankly, my love, the amount of care that requires, that costs $50 a month. And then anything more than that is sarcastic. If you're going to give me $100 a month at the believer tier, we can play video games together. I'll let you read strategy guides, or you can hang out in the Discord or something, and I'll let you be a part of the channel as a voice or a character or something. But uh, 10, 10 is you get your name in the description, and if you if you want, nobody else is, but if you want, there's a chat on Patreon that I'd really like to see moving. I'd really like, honestly, I want this to be about you guys getting to know one another, because I'm a cantankerous and mysterious, like Monroe said. I'm a deep well of mystery, and a lot of it is hidden behind aggressive, angry walls. I had a difficult upbringing that is difficult and almost impossible for anybody to understand, because I reacted to it differently. The other people like me that you know are either dead or so deeply hidden within inside themselves you don't really know them very well at all. And that's what you know about them, is that you don't know them very well at all. And so I've just gone public. I've gone public because the publishing industry did not want me, because my work is too complex, and it lands. It lands, and the characters feel real and lived. The world feels gritty and lived, right? Because I had a manufacturing background, so I root all of my characters in my manufacturing background. So they all have a material job that they're able to do. They all can bring something to the party besides their ability to kill something. And that's not something you'll find in other fiction. You just won't find it in other work. And that means I do have a responsibility to get up right now and go edit it. Get more of it available on the Patreon, so that $10 a month really means something. Something is coming regularly. That matters to me. Thank you guys. I'm not going to say it, but if you can find it in your heart, please help me sustain the channel. Otherwise, just keep coming around. Just keep coming around. All right? I'm going to cash out another $100 this month, just from people coming around, just from the gifts, just from the little bits like Monroe. So I'm staying ahead of myself every month now, because of the Patreon, because of YouTube. So just keep coming around. I'm not begging for subs. Just if you find something that I'm doing that you like, let me know, so I can do more of it. All I'm looking for is a little bit of encouragement, right? Shaggy is from Shaggy Dog Storyteller. I like to talk. I like my stories to meander. They don't always have a point. They don't have a natural beginning or ending. Philaletea is a misspelling of Philaletea, which means lover of truth. But it doesn't really mean truth. There's a mystery in that I talk about sometimes on the channel. Aletheia actually means not forgetting. So everything that I've done, and just the name Shaggy Philaletea, is a higher order religious conception than anything you'll find anywhere else. I'm not asking you to be like me. I'm not asking you to follow me. I'm just asking for second order observation, which means I'm asking you to watch me and report back what you see. That's all. It's a giant social experiment, and I'm the world's biggest asshole. So be well, and do a little bit better for yourself today than you did yesterday, and I'll be proud of you. That may not matter to you, but it matters to me. Take care.